There is a food sitting in your kitchen right now, a food once blamed for murder, madness, and even witchcraft. A food so terrifying that Europeans refused to even touch it, and today, you eat it almost every single day, without thinking twice. This is the shocking story of the poison that became dinner. Europe, 1500s. A strange plant arrives on ships returning from the New World. Its leaves are rich and green, and the color, a deep, seductive red, the color of danger. To Europeans, this wasn't food. It looked like something grown for witches, something used in spells or poisons. People whispered it must be toxic. It comes from the devil's garden. Don't even touch it. This fruit was the tomato, yes, the tomato. The backbone of pasta, pizza, ketchup, once feared as a killer. Why? Because tomatoes belong to the nightshade family, a group of plants known for deadly toxins. Belladonna, mandrake, henbane, plants linked to hallucinations, poisonings, and witchcraft. So when the tomato showed up, shiny and bright red, looking suspiciously like these dangerous plants, Europeans didn't see dinner. They saw death, but the tomato wasn't just feared. People believed it caused real deaths. Here's the twist. The tomato wasn't poisonous, but the plates people ate from were. So when a tomato touched a pewter plate, the acid pulled lead from the metal. Every bite became a dose of poison. People would fall sick after eating tomatoes. Some would die. Doctors couldn't explain it. So what did everyone assume? The tomato killed them. The fruit was innocent, but the plate was deadly. And so the myth grew. Tomatoes were nicknamed the poison apple. But tomatoes weren't the only food Europe feared. Another food, a humble root vegetable, caused so much panic that entire towns destroyed fields, burned crops, and banned it. The potato. Yes, the potato. When potatoes first arrived from the Americas, people refused to eat them. Why? Because potatoes were never mentioned in the Bible. This made priests suspicious. They grew underground, in darkness. They were strangely shaped. They reminded people of deformities. Doctors noticed that people who didn't eat potatoes got sick less often. Not because potatoes caused disease, but because they were refusing the crop in areas where sanitation was better. But people didn't know that. They thought potatoes spread illness, so they were outlawed in some regions, burned in others, and feared everywhere. Here's the twist. People weren't entirely wrong about potatoes being dangerous. Potatoes contain solanine, a natural toxin found in nightshade plants. At safe levels, it's harmless. But when a potato turns green, sprouts, or is stored improperly, the solanine level spikes. Eating too much can cause vomiting, hallucinations, fever, paralysis, even death in extreme cases. There were historical cases, entire families poisoned after eating green potatoes during famine years. So while the fear was exaggerated, it wasn't completely baseless. And that's what makes this story even stranger. The potato was dangerous, the tomato looked dangerous. Yet one became the hero of Europe, saving millions from famine. The other became a global superstar, defining the world's cuisines. But there's one more food in this toxic family. A food that was once banned, feared, and outlawed. Meet the pepper. Not black pepper. That was prized and expensive. I'm talking about chili peppers. When chili peppers arrived in Europe and Asia, they spread incredibly fast. Faster than any crop in history. But in the 1700s, in some regions, chilies were believed to burn the blood, cause insanity, lead to uncontrollable desires. Doctors warned that chilies would weaken the heart and overheat the body. Priests said chilies were a temptation food, making them sinful. In Hungary, chilies were banned for a time because they were linked to outbreaks of illness, not because of the pepper, but because the peppers were grown in contaminated soil. So again, the food was blamed for something it didn't cause. History repeated itself. The dangerous wasn't the plant, it was the world around it. So how did these foods go from feared poison to dinner? It took risk takers, rebels, explorers, poor farmers desperate to survive, chefs who saw potential, scientists who shattered centuries of superstition. In Italy, poor people began eating tomatoes because they had nothing else. They survived. Word spread. In France, Antoine-Augustin Parmentier, a pharmacist, made it his life mission to prove potatoes were safe. He held dinners serving only potatoes to high-ranking officials to break the stigma. And chilies? They became the heart of cuisines from India to Mexico to Korea, embraced by cultures that weren't afraid to experiment. Food fear turned to curiosity. Curiosity turned to acceptance. Acceptance turned into love. Today, tomatoes give us pizza, pasta, ketchup, sauces. Potatoes give us fries, chips, stews, vodka. Chilies define spice cultures around the world. Together, these once feared foods shaped global cuisine. They didn't just survive history, they changed it. Here's the final twist. The foods once feared as poison are now considered some of the healthiest foods on Earth. Tomatoes, high in antioxidants, protect the heart. Potatoes, rich in potassium, fiber, and energy. Peppers, boost metabolism, immunity, and longevity. The poison of the past became the nutrition of today. And every time you bite into a slice of pizza, enjoy a plate of fries, or sprinkle chilies on your food, you're tasting the legacy of fear, superstition, science, and the strange journey of the foods we once believed would kill us. Because history has a sense of humor. The real poison was never the food, it was the fear. If you enjoyed this dark journey into forgotten food history, check out the food that nearly started a war, the deadliest dessert ever served to a king, the food blamed for witchcraft, and subscribe for more hidden stories behind the foods we eat and the secrets they hide.